They threw my suitcase into the freezing garage and laughed. "You don't belong here, Mirabelle." On Christmas Eve, when the world celebrates warmth and family, mine locked me out like I was a stranger. The icy floor bit into my skin, but their cruel words cut even deeper. They thought I was powerless, that I had nowhere else to go. But little did they know, every brick of that mansion carried my signature. If you want to see what happens when the truth explodes, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story will shock you till the end. As I sat in the cold, hearing them laugh inside while the lights sparkled on the tree, I clenched my fists and smiled bitterly. They had no idea the house they flaunted as theirs wasn't theirs at all. For years I stayed silent, building everything while they mocked me. Tonight they thought they destroyed me by pushing me into the garage. But soon, their laughter would freeze just like the winter air. The freezing air wrapped around me like chains, but my heart was burning hotter than ever. I sat in that dark garage, staring at the tiny crack of light seeping through the door, listening to the sound of their laughter echoing from the dining room. Each cheer, each clink of a glass was like a knife twisting in my chest. They weren't just celebrating Christmas. They were celebrating my humiliation. But what they didn't know was that while they saw me as the family outcast, I had spent years working silently, building an empire they couldn't even dream of. Every insult, every time they told me, "You're worthless," fueled the fire inside me. And now, all that pain had transformed into power. I ran my fingers over the key hidden in my coat pocket. The key to the truth they never imagined. It wasn't just a key to a room or a safe. It was the key to the empire, the key to the mansion, the key that would shatter their illusions in one single moment. Tears streamed down my frozen cheeks, not because of the pain, but because of the storm I knew was about to come. They thought locking me away would break me, but they had unknowingly handed me the stage for my grand reveal. Tonight, the world, and my so-called family, would finally see who truly owned everything they had ever bragged about. I whispered into the silence of the garage, "Laugh while you can, because soon you'll be begging for my forgiveness." The sound of clinking glasses grew louder as I pushed the garage door open, the icy wind rushing inside behind me. My breath formed clouds in the frozen night, but my footsteps were steady. With every step toward the grand hall, memories of their cruel laughter echoed in my head. The times they told me I didn't belong, the moments they looked at me like I was nothing. Inside, the family was gathered around the glittering Christmas tree. Golden lights danced across their smug faces as they toasted to another perfect year without me. My sister, dressed in diamonds, smirked as if she had already won some invisible war. My father's voice boomed with false pride, while my mother pretended not to notice the empty chair they had stolen from me. I paused at the edge of the hall, the warmth of the fire brushing against my frozen skin. For a moment, no one noticed me. They were too busy reveling in their illusion of power. And then, I cleared my throat. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward me, shock rippling through the air like a wave. My sister nearly dropped her glass. My father's smile faltered. "Surprised to see me?" I asked, my voice calm, but sharp enough to cut the air. "Did you think the garage could hold me? That cold and darkness could silence me?" No one spoke. Their silence was sweeter than any carol, their fear more beautiful than the twinkling lights. Slowly, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the key, the very symbol of the truth they had buried for years. "This," I said, holding it up, the golden metal shining in the glow of the Christmas lights, "is the key to this house. The key to everything you claim is yours. But you see, it never belonged to you." Gasps echoed around the hall. My father stepped forward, his face pale. "What nonsense is this?" he demanded, but I could see the tremble in his hands. I smiled, a cold, knowing smile. No nonsense, just the truth. And tonight, the truth finally comes home. The silence in the hall was suffocating, broken only by the faint crackle of the fireplace. Their eyes darted between the golden key in my hand and the steel resolve in my eyes. My aunt's words echoed in my mind, the woman who had raised me when they abandoned me. One day, Mira, they'll learn who really built this empire. I took a step forward, heels striking the marble like a gavel in a courtroom. You always called me a burden, I said, my voice steady. You locked me away, laughed at my struggles, and left me to freeze on Christmas Eve. But do you know what I was doing while you were mocking me? I was building. Every investment, every property, every account with my name on it. I kept silent because I wanted to see how far your cruelty would go. I pulled out a black folder from beneath my coat and placed it on the polished oak table in the center of the room. The sound echoed like a thunderclap. This, I tapped the folder, is every deed, every share, every signature my aunt left in my name. This mansion, this company, this wealth you parade around in, it's mine, not yours. Gasps rippled through the family like a wave crashing against rocks. My sister's smug smile shattered, her face turning ghostly pale. My mother clutched the back of a chair for support, while my father's jaw tightened in anger. He couldn't mask. You're lying, my father barked, his voice shaky. This is some trick. Check for yourself, I cut him off, sliding the papers across the table. Every legal seal, every notarized page. You can pretend all you want, but the law doesn't bend to your lies. Not anymore. For a moment, no one moved. Then my brother snatched the documents with trembling hands, flipping page after page. His face drained of color with every word he read. Finally, his hands dropped, the folder slipping from his fingers to the floor. She's telling the truth, he whispered, his voice broken. The hall exploded into chaos. My mother begged me to listen, tears filling her eyes. My sister shouted, accusing me of betrayal, as if I was the one who abandoned them. My father tried to command silence, but his voice no longer carried power. The empire they thought was theirs had just crumbled in one night, and in the middle of the storm I stood tall, calm, and unshaken. For the first time in years, I wasn't the outsider anymore. I was the rightful heir, and they finally knew it. The noise around me was deafening. Pleas, accusations, and hollow excuses. But I let them all speak until their voices cracked. Then I raised my hand. Instantly the room fell silent, as though even the walls were waiting for my next words. You want forgiveness? I asked softly, almost a whisper. Where was your forgiveness when I was begging at your door? Where was your kindness when I was shivering in that freezing garage, wondering if I'd even survive the night? No one dared to answer. Their silence was an admission of guilt louder than any confession. I leaned closer, my gaze sharp as a blade. I'm not here for your apologies. I don't need your tears. What I need is for you to understand one thing. Everything you took pride in, everything you thought belonged to you, belongs to me now. And I will never, ever let you use me again. My sister's eyes filled with panic. You can't just push us out. We're family, she shouted, desperation cracking her voice. Family? I repeated with a bitter laugh. Family doesn't abandon their own. Family doesn't mock their scars or call them worthless. You lost the right to that word the day you turned your backs on me. I straightened up, my voice echoing with finality. From this moment forward, you are nothing more than guests in my house, and guests can be asked to leave, permanently. The air grew heavy. My mother sobbed quietly. My father's fists clenched in helpless rage, and my siblings exchanged terrified glances. For the first time, they weren't in control. Their empire of arrogance had collapsed, and standing before them was the woman they had once cast aside, now stronger, richer, and untouchable. I turned toward the grand doors, pausing only once to glance back. Consider this your only warning. Cross me again, and you'll lose even the crumbs I allow you to keep. With that, I walked out, the sound of the heavy doors closing behind me sealing their fate. The next morning, sunlight poured into the mansion, but this time it felt different. The shadows of betrayal that once haunted these walls no longer had power over me. As I stood by the window, looking out at the sprawling gardens I had built with my own hands, a strange peace settled in my heart. For years, I had begged for scraps of love and acceptance from people who only knew how to take. But now, I finally understood. I didn't need their approval. My worth had never been tied to their recognition. I was whole, even when they treated me as nothing. And now, I was more than whole. I was powerful. My family stayed silent, their pride shattered, their voices swallowed by the reality they couldn't escape. I didn't need revenge anymore. Watching them live under the roof that no longer belonged to them was punishment enough. Every corner of this house whispered the truth they had tried so hard to bury. I was the one who made it all possible. I took one last deep breath, then turned away from the window. The past no longer had chains on me. My story wasn't about the cruelty I endured. It was about the strength I found. As I walked out of the mansion and into the crisp morning air, I whispered to myself, "This is just the beginning." And with that, I left the ghosts of yesterday behind, ready to step into a future built entirely on my own terms, fearless, free, and unstoppable. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every ending can be a new beginning, and sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living better.